I told my producing partner early on, I was like, I don't want to make middling. I have no desire to make mediocre. I want to go big or I want to go home. If I make one film, I'd rather, shoot for the stars and fall on my face. And I think we did that, and that I'm really proud of.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, a laid-back pool cleaner gets roped into a web of corruption in director Chris Pine's comedic mystery, Poolman. The film tells the story of Darren, an unwavering optimist who spends his days looking after the pool of an LA apartment block. But when a femme fatale asks him to look into a shady business deal, Darren uncovers hidden truths about his beloved city and himself. Poolman is Pine's feature directorial debut. Following a screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Pine spoke with director Patty Jenkins about filming Poolman. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
Thanks for coming out. Thanks for staying. This is very exciting.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. Well, I'm so excited that I get to do a Q&A with you as a producer of the movie as well. So I'm going to just start off by saying, as we know, I'll give a little background. For many, many years, knowing Chris as I do, I've been so blown away by what an intelligent person, what an interesting person he was. And I was getting to a point where I was watching him just sit around in his trailer being bored, making the Wonder Woman movies. And I always he's such an artist. I always really wanted you to start expressing yourself in another way. And it ended up, turning into that Chris wrote this incredible script and got to make this movie. But what a natural director, what an incredibly natural director he was and is. So I want to ask you, how was it for you directing for the first time?
It was absolute joy. It was unfettered flow state for 21 days. It was incredible. I think a lot of the stuff that you learn as an actor obviously has just come prepared, and talking with you about how to go about doing that, and the script becomes your Bible, and you ideate that Bible over and over and over. You shoot it in your mind over and over and over again. And obviously exigent circumstances arise on the day or week before. You lose a place and you can't shoot it there. And then you have to be as supple as humanly possible, and you improv as you have to do when you have to do it with no money and no time. But the actual directing of people and being in the thing and all of it was I've said this before, but like any sort of angst that I would have as an actor, there's no time to be angsty because you have to just do shit all the time. So I loved that. I loved not having to wait around. I loved really not having any money because it forced me to move quickly and make decisions quickly. And there was no difference between directing and acting. It was all the same motor was running the whole time.
Yeah, I kept wondering, watching you, you were so natural. I mean, really, like here I am, a director, and wanting to be there, particularly for the first week in case he needed anything. And watching you, and it was as if my friend had come to, it was as if he unfolded into his full self, full time. I mean, that was really what it looked like to me. But it seemed like it was so intuitive to you. And of course, you've been watching on set for so many years. So like, you already know who all these people are and what they do. What was a surprise? Like anything that really surprised you about the whole experience?
Well, I think with acting, you've just done it so much, that you second guess yourself, but you get to a point where you're facile enough where you can just move and make decisions as an actor and kind of move on. Directing, there was a voice in my head always second guessing because I just simply haven't had the experience and the time behind the camera to have that cache of knowledge and experience to back me up. Having you there and having Stacey there was really helpful. what was the big surprise? I mean, everything was a surprise. It was learning every day. Quite honestly, it was a lot of it had to do with learning about the granularity of the experience of all of the departments. Like speaking with Peter Devlin in our sound department, who's won an Oscar and I've known since I was 25 or something. Like, what do you need, Peter, in the scene? What am I dealing with in sound in the scene? Really? Well, we don't have any cops to lock up, so you're dealing with that. Oh, okay. Set deck. What am I dealing with set deck? So it's really understanding deeply down to the smallest specifics every single department. And then you add on top of that the deep, wonderful relationships you get with your camera ops and your first ACs and I love Matt, obviously Jensen, who shot the film, and who I've known since I worked with Patty on the first Wonder Woman. It's just joyful, really, how joyful it is. I mean, we're in the most collaborative artistic business on the planet. And we had no money, as I said, we had no time. And everybody, ultimately, we show up and we play pretend all day. And every single department is like, look at this origami thing I made. And we're like freaking out and vibing out about the origami thing, you know, or like I had a guy in props who made a Darren Berman Tiki Tea newsletter, like fully written, like the whole thing made sense. It's unbelievable. This guy spent time doing that. So I would say that mostly.
Cool. And what about like what was interesting about as an actor directing the other actors? You had great actors. We had so much fun. They seemed to all have a really great time. But is there anything interesting about like what it was like to have to give that direction?
The fire of it for me, it felt, I'd be doing off camera for Annette and, I'm doing off camera and then I'd be like, just take that back one more time and just like a little less. And then we're in it. We're like, okay, no. But this is not arch. This is not just like, feel that. I mean, it's like, I don't know what to compare it to. Incredible. It was like working with a Ferrari. I don't know. It's like you're just twisting the bolt a little bit and then she goes off in this different direction. You're like, no, back. And then Danny is like a firecracker that you have to corral. Annette works, she's like a scalpel and Danny's like a firecracker and you have a scalpel and a firecracker in your scene. You're like, oh my God, I have got to get Danny because she's got to go off. Okay, how do I do this? And I have to flip around. Okay. I don't know. It was just joyful. You have to really work on your feet with what all the actors need in the scene, and you have to be as fast as humanly possible and as supportive as humanly possible. And all of these things of like these ideas that I had of what I was going to do, I forgot about all of them. It's like, I need in this moment, Annette, I want her to try this. Annette, can you try like maybe that? It's about as simple as that,
Yeah, no, and that's my favorite thing about directing is like once you're really in it and you're really working with an actor and you will just do anything to get it to go that way that you want it to go,
Yeah.
It's just such a cool part of it.
And there were moments, and I won't say what they are, but there are moments where there were things I was going for that I wasn't getting, but I also am an actor, so I have a deep compassion for the actor's journey, and I just was, that's the thing that I'm going to get, and that's cool, and I'm moving on,
One of the things that I was most impressed with, on top of just watching you be such a natural director, was you really hung in there every step of the way, even still doing all of the press. And it is such an interesting, different journey, isn't it? Like it doesn't stop. It just goes on and on and on and on and on and on, day after day after day after day. And I was so pleased because oftentimes you really see, particularly first-time directors, but often you worry about someone who has done a different job that was easier on set, really not liking it, I felt like you came alive and loved it. But I watched you take so many punches in the face and just get right back up again. So I was so impressed that you
mean after the film came out?
The what?
After the film came out.
No, even during. Like when we would with the money, like
yeah.
But still now too. Like I've seen you just be such a tough person at like just walking
I guess
right into
when
it.
we were making it, because we experienced all of the myriad permutations of independent filmmaking. We had a billionaire for a hot minute, like a year, who existed somewhere in the ether, and he then did exist but didn't want to make my film. So we lost him, and then we got money, but the guy was only offering half of what we wanted to make it for, so we had to rewrite the script and make it that way. And then I would only shoot on film, and then they were only going to make it digitally, and I found that out from my lawyer the night before, and I was going to walk away. They were going to shut the film down on the first day because of my beard. I mean, all sorts of ridiculous stuff, but all grist for the memoir. I was like, this is fantastic. This is like exactly what you expect it to be, and how to deal with a budget and to make it look like it's going well on paper so you can get the Biltmore for another day, and all this shit. And it's been the hardest experience of my life. I would say that the making of it has been joyful, and the rest of it can go f itself. But yeah, I just honestly wish I could just make stuff and move on, quite honestly. But I would say the hardest part about it, honestly, is as an actor, it's like you make something and then you're on to the next thing. And then by the time the film comes out, you made 4 things. This, sitting with it and waiting for it to come out and then handling the marketing and dealing with the minutia of all of it, which I love, and I love the control aspect of it. No, I have mad respect for you all for what, your chosen profession is. The amount, I mean, this has been 4 or some odd years for me. So yeah, it's remarkable the amount of patience you have to have.
And let's talk about what the movie's about, what it's actually about, because it's been interesting to watch people. And this always happens. And I've said it to you, that usually I'm making a movie that is not what it ends up being called later. Like people always describe my movie and I'm like, if it worked for you, then great, but they're never necessarily understanding the deeper messages that you're working with or what you're trying to do. They're seeing the more overt thing. Yeah.
I told my producing partner early on, I was like, I don't want to make middling. I have no desire to make mediocre. I want to go big or I want to go home. If I make one film, I'd rather, shoot for the stars and fall on my face. And I think we did that, and that I'm really proud of. We wrote a script that was really fun, and you read it, and it was like really fun, and it just bored the shit out of me. It was like, I make films for a living. My day job is making films that are pretty right down the middle, and I love a Swiss watch well told. I don't want to make a Swiss watch. I want to make something that's far out, that is purely from my brain. This film is ultimately really about a boy man who got abandoned by his mother when he was a child and spends the whole film going through this rigmarole to try to understand his deepest trauma, wrapped up in this facade of, What's Up, Doc meets, I don't know, some other films. So that's really what it's about, honestly.
But so when you do these sorts of things, to me, the great thing, I remember Steve Perry said to me once, if you make art for them and you succeed, you're still a loser because you didn't make something for you. And if you make art for them and you fail, you're a 2-time loser. Yeah. And he said, and if you make art for you and you succeed, you're a 2-time winner. Mm. And if you make art for yourself and you lose, you're still a winner because you made it for you. So I actually still believe that. How did you enjoy the experience of getting to express yourself in that way? Because really, that's all it is.
It's unbelievable.
We love the movie.
What it comes down to is I had this really emotional experience watching Being There. And I watched Being There, and I watched Peter Sellers, one of my favorite actors of all time. And he's walking on water at the end, and I started weeping. And I was like, how did Ashby do that? How did he do that? It confounded me. I just had no idea. And I was like, what if you make a film through the eyes of Chauncey? Like, what if you use the innocent? And what if the film was actually through the eyes of the innocent? And it's this archetype that I've loved in cinema history, from Buster Keaton through Peter Sellers and a bit of Fisher King along the way and whatever. And I was like, that's interesting to me. So the pure heartedness of the main character has echoes of Lebowski, but isn't as passive as Lebowski. There's no cynicism in the film. I love every single character. There's no judgment there. There's like it's a sad boy who's been given the keys to the cinematic kingdom to make Wayne, his homeless best friend, an FBI agent, and he gets to go take down the bad guys. And I was like, I thought that was really an interesting experiment. So to be able to do that and inhabit that man and then direct through those eyes was a joy, because he's a joyful character.
Yeah, and I was just telling Chris a story that a mutual friend of ours who came up to me this week and said, I have to talk to you about Poolman. And she was like, that was so profound and devastating to me, because she was abandoned by her mother when she was a baby. And so she said that she started to realize where it was coming. And it ended up being like profoundly moving and deeply disturbing to her, but in a beautiful way. She was like crying at the end, and so she got that message loud and clear. And so I think that's the thing with art. It's funny. I just presented Synecdoche, New York on Turner Classic Movies, and I was talking about how not everybody can understand that movie, but it's okay for other people not to understand your art sometimes. If it has an emotional resonance at all, it's okay if people don't understand it. I feel like it's such a weird time right now that everybody has to understand everything completely in order to appreciate it.
Well, I think that's true. I mean, I watch movies from the 70s. I mean, name an Ashby film or an Altman film, and there seems to be a life quality to it that doesn't have to necessarily adhere to this save the cat mentality of a film. I mean, I feel like I have a film that adheres to a certain normative story structure, but beneath it is really life bubbling. And I wanted, like I have a stakeout scene where in the middle of it, you have Annette Bening saying, I think one of the most beautiful, moving monologues or pieces of literature I've read about what I feel like it means to be alive, which is we're all these like tiny little spheres of water catching the refracted rays of light. And through that, we see our despair beautifully kind of thrown onto the ground, the shadows of it. And I wanted to see if you could have that movie alongside a absurdist slip on in the banana peel kind of comedy. That was the experiment there. And I felt like, there was a time when American filmmaking could kind of hold that experimentality. And the fact that a film, unfortunately, like you're capturing lightning in a bottle, but a film is also, there's an aliveness. I wish sometimes we could view art with the non-rigidity of how, as a child, you can experience life. That it's, instead of grasping on for meaning, you can it can be as delicate as a daffodil. It can be like something washing over you. It doesn't have to have fine lines. And I just read this interesting thing about this German architect who's talking about how the right angle is such an invention of the human being. It doesn't exist in nature, and that the right angle should be abolished from architecture. And I just thought that was so interesting, that we've put rigid corners into how we build things because we need that kind of knowing. And it's like, I'd rather not know all the time, so.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And particularly when it relates to art, which if we're going to talk about, about film as an art form, we apply a different kind of latitude towards painting and music and other things than we do to film for some reason, particularly in this current times. I don't know. I think that the critic culture that has started ever since Rotten Tomatoes has made things much more correct or incorrect, it feels to me. I mean, because you're doing this Rotten Tomatoes like pass fail system, which is like instead of the more subtle critique of like, what is a film doing and is it for you or is it not for you? It's such an interesting thing.
Well, I mean, we can go down the rabbit hole of that. I think, anyway, I think we can.
Yeah. So what does this experience, well, first of all, anything in this experience that like you wish you'd known before you went in, like what will you take on with you as a director going forward that you didn't have the benefit of this time?
I'm so excited. I think the ownership that you feel as an actor and as a director, like I was watching a lot of Buster Keaton and Chaplin before I started this, and I'm watching them and just marveling at like, my God, the ownership these artists had of, this is the character they created. This is the wardrobe they created for their character. This is the story they created. This is the mise en scène that they wanted to have. This is their imprint. And it's so deeply gratifying to finally have that. It's like it's a drug. I can't imagine wanting to give that up. So if anything, it's just to stick to my guns, because I think I remember I watched the film and it's everything I wanted it to be. So I know that the joy of imagining something and then seeing it on the screen, basically as you imagined it, is like, I don't know, is there anything better? And so to just keep on exploring. I mean, a lot, I could talk to you about the minutia of my God, more days. I can't wait to shoot on film again. I wish I'd been ballsier. But it felt really natural. It felt something that it just felt very natural. So the learning of it, there's so much minutia, but the ultimate thing is do it again.
Please. Yeah. And what part did you enjoy the most? Like, was there a surprising pleasure somewhere? Like, what did you think of like editing and things? Like that was something that you hadn't really been behind the scenes of before, and can be such a delightful chapter of storytelling because you're like basically conducting a movie.
Such a drag for a lot of it. Mostly the showing up at 8 a.m. to sit in the same chair to like eat the same bag of pistachios and like throw the same Nerf thing at the wall and go back at it. But the delight, my God, of my editor, I could be like, can you try that and that and that and that and that, and then switch that and that and that, and you and she's like, on it. And then I go out for a cigarette and come back. It's like, it's done. It's like, oh my God, you're a magician.
Yeah, they are.
That's just unbelievable what they can do. And how she can save a scene by, I mean, she was doing shit in there. It was like David Copperfield. It was unbelievable. So just mad respect for that. And yes, and how you can completely, as you told me, it's like writing it is one thing, shooting it is another story, and editing is the third iteration of what you've come up with. So I did actually really love that process. I love costumes. I loved going to Panavision and playing with lenses and talking to Dan Sasaki. I loved shooting on film so much. I loved seeing my dailies and knowing it was like, I don't have to put a LUT on this to make this look, this good. We shot with these Gordon Willis Baltar lenses that he shot The Godfather on. So they have all this like, they just have all this romance to them. I mean, every shot it's just gorgeous. I don't know. I can't speak enough about it, but I got to play with Cook lenses, and then I got to play with P.T. Anderson's lenses. And then it was just like a ball. I love the costumes. I love dressing DeWanda. I loved creating, oftentimes as actors, you get to set and they're like, that's your apartment. You're like, no, it's not. He would never have that there. And I don't know why actors are never really invited into the process of creating their own space. So to finally get to play with my own space, and I got to deck the whole thing out. I loved all of it. I loved you can't shoot at Topanga Canyon. You're going to have to we have to find a location in 5 hours. Can we use Santa Anita? Let's go running to Santa Anita. I've loved all of it. I mean, this is probably a really boring conversation. I'm not getting into anything meaty, but ask me something else.
I would say, what kind of film do you feel yourself headed towards wanting to make? Like, what are you excited to do as a director going forward?
I mean, I have two ideas, and one is more in the LA story vein of The Outcast, and another is, this one was inspired by being there. The next one is inspired by this Melville film called Army of Shadows, and it has nothing to do with that, what that's about, but that color palette, which is a bit more muted, and it's, I guess, maybe sadder, but I think is a quite beautiful story. Way many less words, more about bodies in motion. That one really has me excited. I'm really excited about that.
I am too. So if you could ask advice from any three filmmakers, directors, who do you think you would want to talk to about filmmaking?
Well, Orson Welles, just because, my God, I just listened to his last interview that he sadly gave to Entertainment Tonight, but and he was still working. He was working on this film called The Dreamers or something. Anyway, just fascinated just to talk to him. By that token, maybe Bogdanovich, just because if I talked to Bogdanovich, I could probably figure out a lot of the other directors because of his knowledge. That's probably an easy one. One of my spirit animals is Krzysztof Kieslowski. I would love to just talk to him. I think I'm enamored by his the kind of beautiful little music box films that he makes. They're like huge and very tiny at the same time, very delicate. I find him just really gorgeous. I'm also really in love with this Italian filmmaker Alice Rohrwacher. Melva. I mean, there's so many.
Do you think you will spend long periods of time not directing now? I sort of feel like I can't ever see you not. I feel like you'll always have something that you're working on now. That's what I would guess.
And I don't know if it's postpartum or just dealing with the film coming out in the world and what that's been like. I just have very little inspiration to want to do anything, quite honestly. Really less of a desire to act, but a deep desire to do this again, because it's so much fun. Again, the ownership of the whole artistic experience. So like on my deathbed, I can say like, I did that. That's all of that is mine. Mm-hmm. And knowing that every decision in that process was mine, I own all of it. My favorite quote is the Teddy Roosevelt quote about the man in the arena, and this makes me feel like the man in the arena. It's like, it's interesting as an actor thinking about, an actor as a hired hand, that you're very much a hired hand. You come to work with your toolbox and it's like, Patty, what do you want me to do? I'm ready to play. You tell me. And I love that process, but it feels, this feels so whole.
Yeah, that's why I can't see you putting the genie back in the bottle. Cause you are such an authentic artist. Like you really are. You're such an authentic artist. Like in what you read and what you think about and the painting that you do and the different things. I think that that was always something that people didn't know about you. And even as an actor working with you, you're such an artist that I'm not at all surprised that once you really can make your own piece of art in film, in the medium we've worked in for so long, how would you go back, So speaking of, last question, speaking of like deathbed moments and or, 30 years from now, clip, what's the scene in this movie that you're going to want to watch or that you would choose for your lifetime?
I love all the scenes, my God. It's the scene usually where we either lose people or they're really going for the ride, but there's a 6-page scene in the beginning where they're talking about steak and lobster, which I think they do. Annette and Danny are gorgeous in it. And it's a scene about nothing, but it's a scene about everything. And the acting is like delicious. Like it's just so hard to do that. And that's a scene that was a direct rip from my father over quarantine, talking about how he was upset that this Japanese restaurant was giving him frozen food to make it home. And I just basically stole the entire scene from my father, spending an hour trying to tell me the story that went nowhere. I like the scene at the end when Tobolowsky and I have our rapprochement is very sweet. It's really, there's a scene where Danny says that Fred Spector finally called him back and said that he got offered a $75,000 fee for directing a sitcom, which is an allusion to my father. It's a family joke because in the 80s when my father was broke, like the dream of all dreams was to get a sitcom shooting at CBS Radford. That was like, if he could get, the joke actually was if he could get a job as a deaf mute on a sitcom at CBS Radford, that was the dream. So that was for my father and my mom. And I also really, just in terms of a beautiful moment, I love the scene when they're swimming at the end. That makes me very happy visually. The whole film visually makes me I feel very comforted by that, the stock and the lenses, and makes me feel like what filmmaking that I grew up looked like, not like Netflix, where it feels like you're being hit over the head with every, cell of the television.
Okay, one more question, last question, which was just, we had a lot of great crew and a lot of great producers, but who's your favorite producer? I'm just kidding.
Let me see.
Thank you guys so
Thanks,
much
everybody.
for coming.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America.